Good afternoon, troops. We have endeavoured throughout this last 18 hours or so. Well, I can't do maths. So it's nearly 20. It's nearly 24 hours. That we would get back to you whenever there's news. Chris has just finished a monumental piece for the Rangers Review detailing the inside story of this sweeping change that's about to hit Rangers. We are pretty darn sure that this is going to happen, or at least it looks like it's going to happen. You can never predict the future in terms of hitches that can come, but as far as we know at the moment, as far as what we're being told, this is definitely a goer. You know all that. That's not new. Let's get into some of the stuff that Chris has been talking about in this piece. You can find Chris's 1,500-word inside story piece on the Rangers Review website. At the moment, it's £1 for 6 months. So if you pay your pound just now, that's you. You don't pay another thing for 6 months. And then after that, it's $2.99. You can cancel at any time. Although we think that once you sign up, you won't cancel because it's absolutely brilliant. Joshua Barry's articles, Chris Jack's articles. Sometimes you might even get an article from me. Very rare, but you never know. Derek Clark is certainly there as well. So there's loads and loads of stuff on there and well worth the quid. If you want to read Chris's story, what a place to start. Because Chris, I mean, what a whirlwind it's been, yeah?
If you sign up for that 6-month deal, by the time that deal expires, Rangers will be under new ownership. I think that's if that's not a sales pitch for you, then I don't know what is. No, it's been an interesting 24 hours or so. It's been a busy day once again, but as you say, we said to people this morning, if there's an update, if there's anything that we can bring you, then we'll endeavour to do that. So I would urge people to go and get a look at that piece, running through some of the timescales in terms of how long this deal has been in the pipeline, in terms of when it could be completed. I know that was a big talking point on the briefing this morning. It's not going to be a matter of days. It's not going to be a matter of several months. I think we're looking at this progressing fairly quickly, but in the grand scheme of things. Now, I think you have to be appreciative of the complexity of a deal like this, especially when the American consortium are dealing with as many potential Rangers sellers. It's not just a case of you're buying one person's shares and that's you controlling Rangers. A number of people that have to negotiate with, as that piece outlines, that has been ongoing for several months now. We are at the stage of this is getting very close to being completed, but as someone who I spoke to earlier on today said, that final 1% can often be the most difficult one and the most important one. So I think it's important that the fans keep that sense of perspective and keep in mind just how big a deal this is for 49ers Enterprises. It's a big deal for them to buy into Rangers. It's a big deal for those that are selling their shares. A number of them have had those shares for a number of years. They've put a lot of money into Rangers over the years. They've had some successes, of course, had some notable failures. And I think there's a consensus now, and there's an understanding that Rangers need change. They need changes at boardroom level. They need a change of the ownership structure. They need fresh investment, and that's not going to come from the current structure, the current people that are involved. So that's really why we've reached this stage where Rangers are now on the brink. As I said this morning, as I say in that piece, 10 years from regime change, we're standing at the brink of regime change once again.
Yeah, you can often see little breadcrumbs, can't you, Chris, after the fact, and it's very easy after the fact, but perhaps Dave King, when he said to you the phrase investor fatigue, there was a wee breadcrumb there, and one that perhaps that 2-word description kind of sums up where Rangers were in that moment and where they are now and why this is happening.
I think it's a bit understandable why that position has been reached for a number of the investors. Also, Dave is still the major shareholder, still has the largest shareholding. Douglas Park, after that, his shareholding has increased of late as he's continued to fund Rangers after Dave stepped away. But you're looking at guys like John Bennett put in a lot of money. He's the single biggest lender at present. And it's then, like Sir Julian Voltart is on the board, John Halstead there, and a number of other guys. Stuart Gibson has come in of late. George Taylor been a long-time investor. And eventually, this is a point I think we've discussed on various shows at various stages, you can only keep going back to the same people, asking the same questions, i.e., can you give us more money? You can only do that so often before people naturally reach their end point and say, well, actually, I've given enough of my personal fortune to Rangers. I've given enough of my time and effort to Rangers. I want to go and do other things. I think if this deal goes through, or as we believe when it goes through, a lot of people will be really happy that this current regime, this current board setup has ended. I think it's important to recognise the work that has been done, the money that has been spent. Yes, it's not always been spent wisely on certain projects, on certain players, on certain managers. But everyone who put their money in, everyone who's attended a board meeting, or everyone who has given anything to Rangers over recent years, over this 10-year period, they've done it for the right reasons. They've done it because they wanted to progress Rangers as a football club and give something back to the fans. Now, that's not always worked out. It's not always been the case, and I think we've now reached the point where even they understand that change is required. Rangers need something a bit different if the club is going to progress and move forward at the rate and to the level that we all want it to. Then change round about the boardroom and change in the investor structure is required. So once that point is reached and people accept that, it's then about finding the right people to come in and take Rangers on. And it looks like this American consortium, also closely linked to San Francisco 49ers, headed up by Parag Marath. He's the people, he is the man, and they are the people that are going to take Rangers on.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting in terms of the makeup of a potential Rangers ownership. We've got all these disparate owners who have got a percentage. We know Dave King's keen to sell, but we'd always been told that the other Rangers board members weren't keen to sell. They were quite happy to remain. But you always felt, Chris, that these guys fundamentally are Rangers fans. They're businessmen, but more than that, they are Rangers fans, or they wouldn't have got involved in the first place, because let's face it, I don't think many of them will be walking away with a king's ransom more than what they put in. But you always felt that the only thing that would really push them towards this kind of move, beyond this fatigue that we're talking about, is the clear sense that credible, substantiated people are involved in this, and that there is a pathway to take Rangers forward within whatever the plans that they have are. These guys do take the fact that they're custodians of the club seriously, and that's something that I think is important to state, because this is an organisation, or part of the consortium is an organisation that has substantiable, tangible success, not just in the sporting field, not just in terms of on the pitch, as it were. San Francisco 49ers are the second biggest Super Bowl winners of any club in the NFL, but also off the pitch. You look at a $6.6 billion valuation of the club, which makes Rangers look kind of like small fry. And listen, I know it's not the San Francisco 49ers. It's an enterprise that's come out of the San Francisco 49ers, but they are closely linked. There's no doubt about it. And the Mr. Marathan, who's involved, is clearly someone who has spent a long time in that organisation and will have soaked up a lot of the working practices. So that makes it just all the more exciting in terms of what can be brought. And I'm assuming the people that you spoke to today, there was that level of excitement there as well.
I think they would. The people who are selling would not be selling if they had any doubts. This is not the first Rangers takeover story or Rangers investment story that we've seen. There's these whispers all the time. Some of us that get further than others. The Kyle Fox issue was obviously one that rumbled on for a while. Rangers were really, or certain members of the board were adamant that was not the right thing for the club. It would have been financially beneficial for them to sell at that point. I think that was about 40 pence per share that offer was made at. We don't know exactly what this one is going to be made at just yet, but you look at recent Rangers share deals, you're looking at around about 20, maybe 25, maybe even 30 pence per share, depending who the seller is and how big a negotiation they want to have. So it's going to be less financially rewarding for a number of these shareholders to sell to this consortium. But if they believe that it's the right thing for Rangers going forward, if they can bring business expertise, if they can improve the commercial side of the club, if they can improve marketing, if they can improve sports science, ultimately if they can improve the first team on the pitch, as we spoke about on the show this morning, if they can improve the fan experience and fan relations, if this consortium ticks all those boxes, the shareholders are willing to almost take that hit, and that will be their final hit that they'll take. They're not getting every penny that they put into Rangers over the years. They're not getting that back, but they will sell to who they believe that the right people are, and it will herald in this new era almost. There'll be a number of changes round about the boardroom table. So we expect Fraser Thornton to remain as chairman as it stands. We expect Patrick Stewart to remain as chief executive officer as it stands. And I also expect John Halstead to remain on the board as well, again, as it stands. I feel like I'm heavily caveating all those things because, as you touched on at the top of the show, things can change, things can move on. But we do expect the Americans to bring in their own directors, at least two, and that will really change the dynamic of the Rangers board. So time will tell once these share deals are completed, once this consortium is actually in place. We'll need to see who's actually appointed and what roles and what responsibilities they have. But we can say for sure that this is going to herald in sweeping changes on and off the park at Ibrox. And again, we see from the comments on the show, see from the comments that we've seen on social media, number of people that are engaging with the channel and everything we're doing on the website. This has been a real shot in the arm to the Rangers support, and it's one that's long overdue.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I saw earlier, Chris, I read this out to you just for the guys watching. If you go onto YouTube, Parag Marath has done a lot of podcasts over the years, and I kind of sat up till about 3 a.m. watching 3 of them last night. And there was one quote that just stood out to me in terms of the direction we're likely to go. I think as we see American owners coming into the club. This is the quote. It said, "The fundamental thing that's changed with professional sports teams on and off the pitch is they are no longer run as lemonade stands." That's obviously an Americanism, but we get the idea. They're no longer just about a football team or a baseball team or a soccer team. It's now run as a business, as a Fortune 500 type business. And that means you need to get as much value as you can and minimizing risk as much as you can, both on the field with the players and also in the business. Secondly, the other line that I thought was really, really interesting is this. He said, "The name of the game for any sports team is to have yourself a sustainable stadium or arena that you can play in that generates enough that you can support the team you want, a competitive team on the field." And of course, Marath did that with the San Francisco 49ers, and they've got the stadium that generates unbelievable value for the club. You see with Tottenham, they spent a lot of money to get that stadium, but then, Chris, that's really paying off in terms of the match day revenue. Why am I talking about this? Well, the big elephant in the room, the elephant that's been in the room since 2000 or whenever that stadium across the city was built, Celtic have 10,000 more supporters that they can pack into the ground, which gives them an inbuilt financial advantage. You wonder if it isn't just supremely and obviously in front of our face what this first plan of attack would be in terms of maximising that revenue at the stadium that Parag Marath has already talked about.
You're desperate for the Mega Brox, aren't you? You would love a Mega Brox. No, I think it makes a lot of sense. Now you look at what the comments you've just read out there. Rangers start every season with that disadvantage. They start every season knowing that to their closest rivals, to the team that they have to beat, they have that financial problem, that financial hurdle to solve. You would imagine that when this deal is done, it's going to be one of the main things, and not even just. I think obviously a the fans would love more seats and a bigger Ibrox. It'd be great to see. It'd be great for atmosphere purposes, obviously. Even just what work you can do in and around the stadium to improve the footprint of it. Now, obviously, Edmiston House has been built. A thing that we have discussed quite a lot on the channel over the last couple of seasons. But again, you look around Ibrox and you look at some of the facilities. The sports bar was meant to be open this time last year, and it's still not there. And even like things that might seem silly, like putting down some new tarmac so it looks a bit better, and fix just doing things to tart the stadium up a wee bit, make it look a bit better, but then also giving the fans something back, making the match day experience a bit better. You look at the Etihad campus, for example, and the work that Man City have done, the money they've invested in that, and that's for a fan base that's not as passionate as Rangers, that's not as historically as large as Rangers. They've got the money, they've done it, they've spent it. If Rangers do now have those funds, yes, expanding the Broom Loan or expanding the Copeland again, filling in the corners, all this, filling in the screens, all that type of stuff will come back on the agenda, no doubt. But there's small things that can be done, and I think that's again a point I made on the show this morning. Not everything has to be headlines with this. See if they just do the right things, do the smart things. Smart things and small things can make a big difference when there is such scope for improvement at Rangers. So really interesting to see how the new owners, how the new directors actually go about taking Rangers to where they want to get to. Is it going to be one big splurge and you throw everything at it, or are they going to do it properly, sensibly, sustainably, and build it up? I think if you look at the model that they've employed at the 49ers, the way they've invested in Leeds United, it doesn't smack of let's just go and throw millions and millions of pounds at it and see what sticks and see what is a success. It looks like they're going to do it in a smarter way.
Guys, we're a bit knackered, so we're going to go off now. We said we would talk 10 minutes and we've talked 17, which is just what happens when me and Chris get started. But what I would say is, if you want the latest right now, 1,500 words Chris has just filed before he came on here. It's on the Rangers Review website, www.rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. It's £1. You get 6 months access for that. Download the app. It's the best way to consume Rangers news, best way to consume Rangers writing. There's no adverts. It's basically all on your phone and in your app. So 100% get on there. £1 for 6 months, and you can get Chris's piece. It's full of insight. He has been a busy boy. He definitely needs a lie down, so I'm going to go and give him that. But that's not to say he's going to get a long lie down, probably about half an hour, and then he's back working again because he needs to keep on top of the story. It is developing. We don't know when someone's going to drop or when a phone call is going to come in or a text message. And that's why you need to keep on top of everything that we do in terms of our socials, in terms of here on the YouTube. You can follow us, obviously, on Twitter, and anything around this story will go up there first. We've got a WhatsApp channel as well. You know where to find us. We're everywhere. But guys, listen, we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to talk about all this in much more detail. Chris, I don't know if you're in tomorrow. Are you back on?
I was meant on the initial schedule. I was meant to be in, and the schedule has changed a couple of times. Overtaken
I think
by
we may
events,
get tomorrow morning off, given the scenario. So we'll try and have a look at that once we go. But we may give you a wee rest. Make sure you're nice and fresh for the presser, where you've got to go in. I'm sure Big Phil will be delighted to answer questions on all this. That's going to be very interesting tomorrow. And he doesn't really. I mean, what can he really say, Chris? It's going to be very interesting as to how he's going to approach this one. I suppose probably you'd imagine he doesn't say very much. He probably says, guys, I know nothing about this, and it's very interesting, but as I learn more, I'll be able to comment more, but I don't have anything to say about it right now because I don't know anything. Do you suspect anything different? I
would be surprised if he goes too deep into it on his presser tomorrow. I think he'll be keen to talk about the football, but we'll see. I think it's a 12:50, I think, start for the presser tomorrow for the player, and then back at 1 for the manager. So as usual, we'll have all the videos, have all the Q&As, have all the analysis on the site, and we'll talk football for one day only.
Knowing Rangers, Big Phil will announce a £100 million war chest and the Mega Brox. So let's see if that happens or not. Okay, right, guys. Listen, thank you all very, very much for tuning in. Like you say, you know about the deal, £1 for 6 months. Get on there and sign up. But until next time, until tomorrow as it stands, thanks so much for watching and listening to our nonsense, and we hope you have a great day.